on to Broncos versus the Bulldogs. Bulldogs defeat the Broncos 41-16. What a watershed moment for the Bulldogs. An absolutely incredible win. And, you know, if anyone had any doubts that this club has turned around, I think this win completely puts it to bed, because they were, like we all expected, you know, heading into this game, you know, especially even on Packer Up Boys, we spoke about it constantly. The fact that the Bulldogs were $3 was outrageous. Yeah. It was actually outrageous. We thought, at the very least, the Bulldogs would defend their way to victory. There is not a single person in rugby league that thought that they would go up there and absolutely put the Broncos to the sword with their attack. It was an incredible display of coaching from Ciraldo. He's clearly watched a bunch of vision, identified massive weaknesses in the Broncos' defensive, and he exploited that for the whole 80 minutes. The Bulldogs, it is an exciting time. What's crazy is this is just the beginning. This is the squad that they wrangled together with players that just happened to be on the market or other clubs were willing to release. Like, think of a lot of those guys they signed in the offseason were players other clubs were willing to release. That's how crazy it is. That's how good the system is right now that Ciraldo has. And they did it all without Crichton. It's an amazing victory. It's arguably, look, the Broncos were terrible, but it's arguably one of the best victories for the club in the last 4 or 5 years. It was an amazing victory. And I tell you what, right now, they have a very, very good chance of making the top 4. And they deserve every plaudit they get after a victory like this. They were incredible.
You talk about guys too, Kempy, that they've only got guys they've been able to sign. They've also gone into a lot of meetings with a lot of big players and walked and gone, no, that's not our guy. Whether it be Mitch Moses, AFB, these sort of guys, like they've said no on a number of occasions as well, which is sometimes just the strongest thing you can say. Going up there though, mate, the way they move the football, it's been so long since I've seen a Bulldogs side that just looks like they love playing footy. And they were just having the time of their lives up there the other day. I was in the preseason a big fan of Drew Hutchinson, and even until about round 10 or so, I remember having the conversation with Matty. I was pushing back saying I didn't think Toby Sexton make that much of a difference. I think he's made an enormous difference coming in.
Mate, he went up to Suncorp and put the Broncos to the sword. We're talking Adam Reynolds, Ezra Mann. So basically I sent Matty this message because I wanted to basically go through this as an exercise. Team against team. Reece Walsh, Connor Tracy, who you picking every day of the week? Reece Walsh. Cobbo Wilson, Cobbo. Stags, Kiraz, Stags. Mariner, Jerry, Mariner. Jesse Arthurs, Skelton, Jesse Arthurs. Ezra Mann, Burton. Some people would pick Mann. If you were going to sign one of those people, some people would sign Mann, but we'll just give you Burton. Sexton, Reynolds, you'd go Reynolds. Jensen, Curran. Before this year, everyone would have selected Jensen. Billy Walters, Reed Marnie. Payne Haas, Sam Hughes, Haas. Hetherington, Kickow, you'd go Kickow. Ricky, Preston. I mean, I think a lot of people would have picked Ricky heading into this year, but we'll give you Preston. Paddy Carrigan, Kurt Mann, Paddy Carrigan. Out of that starting set 13 that played each other, on paper, there's probably 3 Bulldogs players that would even get close to starting in this Broncos side. And yet they got absolutely dusted. That shows you what special things are being built at the Bulldogs.
Yeah, the Broncos were terrible in this game, but the Bulldogs made them look terrible. And it was a coaching masterclass from Cameron Ciraldo.
Yep.
And all this hype around him last year and going into taking over the Doggies, and it didn't sort of quite come to fruition last year. Shock. First year at a new club with completely roster that you've inherited. On the weekend, it didn't take a great diehard footy fan and analyst to see that it was just edge to edge, and Ciraldo and the Doggies identified that's where the Broncos are weak. They've got these juggernauts in Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan through the middle, and they go, we won't take you on there. We'll go at you where you're weak. And it was just relentless. From one edge to the other, to the other, to the other. They just kept going at them, and they had success every time they did it. It was ruthless from them. Yep. And it's one thing to say you do it, but playing that type of footy and throwing it side to side, it can go pear-shaped very quickly. But it was so controlled, it was so calculated, and for them to do it at 75 whatever plus percent they completed at, it was just such high quality football.
Yeah, and you actually, I think if you go on back and watch, even his first time he played Penrith, but maybe this year as well. But if you go back and watch, he tried a similar game plan, and it actually did worry the Penrith Panthers a bit. And funnily enough, it's Manly do it as well to a degree, that coming out of your own end, spreading it quite early. And Manly, when the Broncos were playing much better footy, it troubled the hell out of the Brisbane Broncos. But yeah, the Bulldogs executed even better and completed a higher percentage for at least the first half. And it was unstoppable. And the Broncos' inability to identify that and adjust was like genuinely mind-blowing, like, because it just kept happening. It just kept. But we'll get to the Broncos. But yeah, the Bulldogs. What's so exciting is, guys, this is a team right now that has arguably the best young talent in the NRL ready to come into it in the next 2 to 3 years. Could be next year. So the next 12 to 24 months, you'll start to see filtered in some of the best young talent in the competition into this side already that is currently top 6 and could be top 4 by the end of the year.
Not to mention, like, even just next week, Stephen Crichton will come back in, I believe, and I think Josh
he's out
Adokar.
indefinitely, Critter, I think.
No, I think he'll be back from what I've heard. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What I've been told. Apparently, he was close to playing last week.
Okay, I read it was a nerve damage and they were a bit concerned. Anyway, all right, yep.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm only going what I've been told. But anyway, when Stephen Crichton and Josh Adokar's close to returning too, like, you've got to find 2 backs to drop there.
Well, I mean, like, I guess the argument is like, Fox, you're bringing back him because he's a senior player, but if it was just a blank slate right now, it'd be hard for him to come back into the side.
It's been next man up mentality all season for them, isn't it? Like, said they lose Critter, they lose Fox. Blake Wilson's been terrific. Drell Skelton was outstanding on the weekend. I didn't realise how quick he was. We knew he was powerful. He's got the speed as well. And then you look at Max King, a very key bloke in this forward pack to their middles. He goes down long term. Curran, they shift him into a starting role. Sammy Hughes had an opening stint of about 20 minutes. I don't think he came back onto the field. So,
mate, Curran has been like, I cannot believe how good he is in the front row. Like,
look at the Doggies bench. You mentioned the starting 13. Look at their bench. Hayward, Hopoi, Morin, and Hayes. And they came out and just destroyed them.
Yeah. Well, I think, no, Hayes didn't get any minutes. Hayes didn't play, I don't think.
No, I thought he did. Could be wrong.
Hayes Perham?
No,
Harry Hayes.
Oh, Harry
Sorry,
Hayes. My bad. I was like...
Stitch up.
Harry Hayes Perham. Harry Hayes. Yeah, and Harry Hayes, did he debut last week as well?
He's a beast, that
He's
kid.
a fucking big boy.
Oh, my goodness.
But, like, yeah, you have a look at that bench, and, you know, I consider myself somewhat a big rugby league fan. Curtis Morin's the only one I would have recognised at the start of the year.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it is... This shouldn't happen. Like, it's incredible on one side. It's unacceptable on the other side from the Brisbane Broncos.
The next man up thing speaks to good coaching, though. You know, and obviously last year, this is where I'm holding out hope as a Tigers fan, because you compared them to the Dogs of last year. You know, it was a bit of a mess. They had to get rid of a lot of players, but now everyone pretty clearly knows what their role is. So when they come in, they're able to do it so well. And yeah, they absolutely towed them up on the weekend. Here's their run home, by the way. A lot of winnable games here. Raiders, Dragons, Dolphins, Warriors, Manly will be a tough one, and Cowboys probably a pretty tough one as well.
But all winnable.
All winnable. Yeah. They're sitting 5th. They're 550 to make the top 4.
Incredible.
Yeah, with Crichton to come back in and a couple of other players to come back in.
And just, yeah, it's amazing. Like, here's another one. Like, Bronson Sherry, he came back in off a 4-year suspension. A 4-year suspension. He's been so solid for them, and we've barely heard of people. Like, there's been no drama about it, as in there's been no headlines written about it. Yep. And that's just testament to incredible coaching. Incredible coaching. It's absolutely amazing. And it's what's good about the game for the Bulldogs fans, I guess, is if you ever, sometimes it's really hard to see, like, what impact does a coach have? Like you can look at selections, but selections are just one part and sometimes a smaller part of what makes a good coach. Watching the tactical brilliance of Serraldo and just pick a team apart like that. Oof. And you've got this coach that's like one of the youngest coaches in the competition, so he can be around for a very long time. Like, as I said, like, this team on paper should be nowhere near where they're at. Like, the fact that Curran went up to Suncorp against Paddy Carrigan, Jensen and Haas and arguably outplayed them. Like, if you've met Curran, this guy is honestly the size of a small outside back. Like, he's not big. And yet he just took it to a Broncos forward pack filled with Origin players. Incredible.
I posted on social media the other day, they're the only team this year to not concede 30-plus points in a game, and they're the only team to do it since the Melbourne Storm in 2021.
Wow.
Amazing. Just amazing. Connor Tracy, let's talk about him. 3 tries, 3 try assists, 24 runs, 185 metres, 20 post contacts, 7 tackle breaks, a line break, 3 line break assists, 2 offloads. Again, he's just a really good example of when a player buys into a system, and when 17 players buy into a system, you can do things like this. Like, greatness awaits if you're all willing to buy in. And you look across the, to the other side, the Brisbane Broncos, all the talent in the world, but are currently not buying in. And, a champion team will beat a team of champions. And that's what you saw on the weekend with the Bulldogs. It's that simple. And Connor Tracy is the pin-up boy for that, because, honestly, the talent Reece Walsh has is infinite. And yet Connor Tracy completely wiped the floor with him in this game. And granted, I understand that, yes, they both have different players playing with them, and this forward pack maybe got better than this forward pack. But when you've got a team of champions versus a champion team, then the rewards for key players will be what Connor Tracy did. And I know some people sit there and go, well, Reece Walsh in that Bulldog side would have done something similar. I get all that. For sure, he would have. We're talking about one of the game's biggest superstars that can barely walk down the street. Rightly so. He's an incredible athlete. He's an incredible rugby league player. Yeah, against Connor Tracy, who honestly could walk down the street and a lot of people probably wouldn't recognise him. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Well, mate, I was at a charity event last year, and Connor Tracy was there with his camera doing some vlog sort of content. I stood there for about 5 minutes, 3 metres away from him, going, is that Connor Tracy or not?
Yeah.
And he was just so unassuming, and there's not much to him, that I walked away and thought, it's not. Then I saw him actually post some content from it. Just crazy. And he is... have you had him in here for an interview?
No.
He'd be an absolute cracker, mate. The amount of things he's had to overcome in his career, the amount of, even you look back to the start of this year, he arrives at Canterbury and Blake Taft's the first choice fullback. He finds himself sitting in reserve grade again, has to do it all over again for the 3rd club in a row. And now it just seems crazy to, when was the last time we spoke about Stephen Crichton playing fullback?
Yeah.
We couldn't shut up about it in the pre-season.
Yeah.
We were literally sitting here saying, and I was guilty of it, you've signed Crichton, you've come through some tough times, you have to just give this bloke a crack at fullback. And now you're sitting back 3/4 of the way through the regular season going, Serrato's just nailed it. He's nailed everything.
In our defence, we did have Connor Tracy ahead of...
We did,
yeah. Sure, yeah.
But we were all sitting here going, look at this spine. You need a superstar in this spine. And we were constantly saying, just put Critter in there, put Critter in there. And Serrato just, like he did last year with the whole defensive system, basically he gave that squad an opportunity to buy in. They didn't. And he just said, all right, well, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to live by the sword and die by the sword. So I'm going all in here. He believed in his system, and it has paid such big dividends. And Connor Tracy was electric. And it was just purely hard work. He just worked his ass off that whole game. Other players that were outstanding, Reid Marnie, geez. And what I love about the Dogs is that, on the come up, as they were coming into this position where everyone started going, oh, wow, 6 to 7 weeks ago, we were all sitting there going, ooh, I don't know if they make the top 8. Now we're all of a sudden saying, phew, they might make the top 4. Top 8, outside the top 8 would be incredibly disappointing. And when they were on their way up and they were spiteful and they were always getting in pushes and shoves and we were all kind of like, oh, I don't really enjoy that. But it has been that mentality of nah, we're not here. If you're a big dog club and you're beating us by X amount, we're not taking that lying down. We aren't accepting that we're the Bulldogs and we should be getting beaten by the Penrith Panthers or the Brisbane Broncos and the Melbourne Storm. No, we're going to make it a problem. We're going to bring back that old kind of antagonistic style. And it's worked. It's worked. It has galvanised this side. So, yeah, props to them. It has been an incredible journey.
Kiros, mate, can jump from wing to centre. And, I think when people talk about that transition, they act like it's easy. He comes in to replace Stephen Crichton. He's arguably the best centre in rugby league right now. And every time he does, kills it.
I mean, I go back to the team list. This is on a team list where he was playing against a backline with Staggs, with Jesse Arthurs, with Mariner, with Selwyn Cobbo, with Reece Walsh. He outplayed every single one of them. Again, ticker, working hard,
We've said it all season, but I think now more than ever, he's just got rep football written all over him, and like who knows how far he can go. But certainly the Blues are on the radar pretty soon because he's got one of the, I'd argue, almost the best work ethic of any outside back in the competition. As Guru said, he can go between wing and centre effortlessly. He can slot in at fullback if required. He's just an absolute superstar. The question with the Dogs now is, how far can they go?
Yeah, it really is. And every time we doubt them, like they just take another step.
Well, you look at them, and outside of Penrith, who I'm like sceptical that anyone can beat on their day, but like even Penrith, they went out to Blue Stadium, lost by 6 points, and
that result. Like, sorry to cut you off, Timmy.
Right.
Looking back on that result, I think we all kind of, don't get me wrong, we wrapped it up, but I think we all secretly were like one off.
Yeah,
one off. Like they went out to Penrith. That's where they're at.
They lost against Melbourne in round 6, 2 points down in Melbourne. They've beaten the Roosters this year. You just sit there and go, particularly if Penrith have an off night in a prelim final or something, get dusted, and the Dogs just sneak along. They've shown they can beat, I think, anyone in the comp. Again, give or take Penrith, but you never know.
Well, and also we're watching a Bulldogs side that at the start of the year had no attack. Like it was just all defence. Now, if we're seeing a side that is clicking in attack, that's could be the final ingredient to be a bit of a pest in the final series. Maybe they knock off a couple sides and they get into a prelim. Like, who knows?
And there are so many teams in that top 8 that are hot and cold. One week they're superstars, the next week they're awful. The Doggies every week, and Guru's stats, I think, sum it up around they're not conceding over 30. You know what you're going to get from them every week. They're going to put in. They're consistent. So they could have a big September coming up.
They lost the first 2 weeks of this season, 51-14.
Crazy. So incredible stuff from the Doggies. It's an amazing, and what a game to watch as well.
Absolutely. I just wanted to give a shout out to the halves pair. I know we spoke about, Sexton's in there now, but I think they're just nicely balanced. Burton, particularly if we have a look at their kicking game, like Burton kicked for 408 metres, Toby Sexton 145, but it's pretty clear there when they get close to the line and there's, maybe a try on or, we're at the end of a set. I think Toby Sexton's been really impressive. He had a couple of kicks on the weekend where he forced a couple of dropouts. There's one where he just dropped it over the top. Do you remember that? It kind of landed almost on the line.
Well, his short kicking game is some of the best in the comp.
Amazing. Yep. He just looks really well organised. He's the organiser. Burton kind of runs it a bit more and does the long kicking, but I don't know, they look very well balanced right across the park.
Sexton, the year, and I've already said this, but the year that he left the Titans, he had the most repeat sets of any 7 in the competition.
Yep.
That's how good his short kicking game is. I forgot who I was speaking to. It might have even been Bulldogs fans on the weekend. And they're like, oh, yeah, we just need a half. And I was like, Toby Sexton's 23 years old.
Yeah.
Like, give this bloke some time to build in. Like, why can't Sexton be the half? Like, tell me why. He's 23. Like, granted, if he had already been in the NRL for 10 years and this was the best that he had to offer, then I would be like, okay, I get that. We're talking about a half. Could you get his age up, please, Matty? There's 23 years old, 24 max. He has so much time to develop it. He's 23. Why can't he be the half? Like, I don't look at his game and say he can't develop into a top 4 half.
Absolutely. I've liked him from the second he went down to the Doggies and played a few games at the back end of last year. I was hoping the Raids were going to sign him, and there's so much talent there. Like, he's pretty solid defensively. He's only going to get bigger and bigger. Kicking game's good. You sort of summed it up well, Kempy, but he can be a long-term halfback for them.
Just had a quick look through their schedule this year. Since round 2, once they got themselves sorted, they've conceded more than 3 tries in a game 3 times.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
They were the worst defensive side by a mile last year.
In the club's history. Literally in the club's history, I'm pretty sure, or at least second or worst. What an incredible win. What an absolutely incredible win. And, they did it without, like Kickout didn't even play that well, which is insane. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I thought Preston, forgot to mention him, but Preston, I thought he was outstanding. And he's another guy. He's been injured for a lot of the year. Yeah, there was periods there where he was on the bench.
Mate, he went straight through the big fella. He went through Paddy Carrigan for one of his line breaks.
Yeah.
No one does that.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? When you look at the sides that Madge picked this year and whatnot, I don't reckon Preston will be too far away.
He reeks to me of just early Josh Jackson. Really destructive edge, ball runner, runs a great line, attacking him. People probably forget about that because the back end of Josh Jackson's career, he moved to the lock and more of just an up and down middle forward, but seems like a great fella, great work ethic. he's special.
Poor old Reece Walsh didn't see him coming either, did he? Cut him in half as well.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the Broncos. Yeah, really, really poor performance. And unfortunately, I think some really hard, honest conversations need to be had across the entire club. I think that you look at, since Seabold left, went 14th, 9th, 2nd. Now it's looking like, they'll probably, if they keep playing like this, they'll be bottom 4. I'll just get the ladder up.
13th.
Currently 13th. They have the same amount of wins as... Sorry, they've got a game in hand, but they're on 20 points like the Titans. So let's just say they finish 13th. We'll just say they finish 13th or 12th. That would be 14th, 9th, 2nd, and 12th. And with the roster they have, I think a lot of Broncos fans could understand the rebuild of the 14th, the 9th, the 2nd, and then you stay in the top 8 and you kind of work from there. You might not necessarily make a grand final each year, but you work in that top 8 kind of area and you build towards hopefully another grand final appearance. But unfortunately, that has not happened. And I think as a club, we can't hang our hats on. We made a grand final last year. Therefore, everything that we're doing right now is okay. I think we need to look at it as a whole block. I think some very harsh and tough conversations need to be had. I've got concerns about both assistant coaches are moving on at the end of the year. What's happening there? Why is that happening? And I think that it's a disaster. It's a disaster year. And, I think that a lot of Broncos fans, and I think we as a club, were hoping that you were looking at it going, okay, a lot of injuries and Origin or whatever, and things will turn around. That hasn't happened. And I said it before the game as well. Even with their full-strength squad during this year, they haven't been anywhere near their best, and they've dropped games. It's a disaster year, and it's, as I said, some really tough conversations need to be had, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on pretty much all key roles heading into next year.
You putting the red Sharpie through them?
They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it. I'm not officially doing it because they've got a soft run home. I think they might have the Storm or someone as their only particularly tough game. I can't put a Sharpie through a team with Walsh, Carrigan, Haas, but on what we've seen, there's no reason why they will go on a run, but I can't put it through them just yet.
If they don't make the 8 this year, that's the last 3 teams Penrith have beaten grand finals. Last 3 years aren't in the top 8 this year. That's unbelievable.
Shows you how good Penrith are. Just incredible, an incredible club. So look, they can technically still make the 8 or whatever. They don't deserve to make the 8. No. It's that simple.
And it's
we don't deserve to make the 8.
The theme of the entire year has been with the Broncos complacency. And I just thought, with these boys coming back from Origin, I don't see how you can be complacent when you're sitting 13th and you essentially need to win every game to play finals football. That's embarrassing for this club to not play finals footy this year. I thought they'd get up for it. And from the second this game kicked off, you look like you expected. The Origin boys backed up last week. You beat the Knights in a relatively convincing win. You look like you expected to do that again. You were going to come out. Reece Walsh was going to wave his wand. You were going to score points and cruise on through. You're waiting for it to happen. Individual moments of brilliance, and it was the furthest thing from it. You mentioned earlier, Kempy, but you weren't playing as a team.
Nah, that edge defence, I cannot believe for the life of me that when that first got stripped at the first 2 times, they said, oh shit, we're getting stripped of numbers here. Let's communicate. Let's identify where the ball's going to land, as in key players. So for example, oh shit, they're setting up for a wide play. Burton is usually the second pass. Someone land on Burton before he gets the ball. I don't know. Let's get up and get in their face. Now, granted, if they do that as a unit and they still get skimmed somehow, fair enough. We get back to the training paddock. What I can't understand is no changes were made at all the entire match. It's just, and I just think that too many poor habits. The amount of players out there that are playing where they don't even look like they really want to be playing. They're not ripping and tearing. I think there's clearly some environment issues. I think there's clearly some standard issues internally. Their defence has fallen off a cliff. This is a team that in some stats was a better defensive side than Penrith last year. Unfortunately, I think that it's a squad that seems to be okay with where they're at. It doesn't seem like a desperate squad at the moment. And so it's some tough conversations need to be had. Just that simple.
Oh yeah, I thought going into half time of this game, like you're only down by 6 points, but that try that Tony Staggs scored on half time, that was like lights out, Broncos at their best sort of stuff. And I thought, fuck, I wonder if that can maybe just be the switch that potentially they play some footy, but they just got shell-shocked in the second half.
Playing as individuals. Like, that was an individual brilliance. Reece Walsh's try was individual brilliance. Like, they're not playing as a team, as a unit. Like, the miss that Paddy Kerrigan had on Preston, Paddy never does that. And that's my concern is, why is Paddy doing that? What is going on that has Paddy in such a frame of mind that he's going to miss a tackle like that? Like, are they overtrained? Are they undertrained? Are they tired? Is he beaten up? Is he playing injured? There's a lot more questions that I have than just the performance on the field. I'm very, very concerned about, I think that the club is in a very, very concerning position that a grand final appearance is clearly just painting over. Because this squad on paper, we should be absolutely annihilating teams.
Let's add 2 more plays to that. And I'm actually less critical of Carrigan because he was trying to get across. He just missed a tackle. As good as he is, like, it happens. Reece Walsh, chips and chases on halfway to himself, which is fine if it's on, but there was just nothing on. I get it, you're chasing points, not on. Payne Haas, very hard to critique Payne Haas, but Grubbers for himself on 4th tackle on the line. Like,
this is all individual. Yeah, like, this isn't working as a team.
And you talk about working as a team, Kempy. I look back to the Broncos in all those consecutive years where they didn't play finals footy, and I looked at their middle forwards and their shape in and around the ruck, and there was none of it. It blew my mind how often they were just these boppers going up, one off by themselves, not running in support, no ball movement off the dummy half. Last year, you got on top of it, and you were running in pairs. You're running in pairs with players out the back, and it was just so destructive, and no one could stop you go forward. I'm watching again this year, and it's like, all right, who wants to have the next run? Who wants to have the next run? Why, when you've got these 2 Adonises in, Paddy Carrigan, Payne Haas, who like have great ball playing themselves, why they're not going to the line, particularly attacking the try line, go in there, tip onto each other, isolate blokes, you will roll. It's just one off. There's no shape.
That's what I mean. No shape, no response to the way the Bulldogs were tearing them apart. And that's why I think, like, what's happening at training? Like, what is this playing group being taught? Like, the fact there was no adjustments, they look a shell of themselves. Like, it's truly perplexing.
And when you talk about that shape and what the doggies put on, we said like they're going side to side, and how could the Broncos not adjust this? You knew it was coming, because every bloke, when they'd go from the right side of the field to the left and back, they had forwards running lines and holding up defenders and not allowing him to just go, okay, they're going wide, let's just slide with them. Because the doggies had the shape and everyone was doing their job, they couldn't afford to do it.
It's tough, like you look at that. Because they do so well off the field as a club, sometimes I feel like, does that make the players kind of feel like they're doing better than they are? I'm not really sure. But, tough watching the Broncos at the moment, but hopefully they can turn around. Obviously, always be backing them in, always be backing them to turn it around, but I do think that some very tough conversations need to be had at the club, and I think that a grand final appearance, hopefully, isn't excusing where we're at right now. I hope that people aren't going, oh, well, we made the grand final that year, therefore it's not as big as a problem as it is. No, right now, our last 4 years, as I said, 14th, 9th, 2nd, and potentially 13th this year, with this roster, it is like mind-blowing. Like, this roster seriously should be constantly giving Penrith... It should be Penrith Panthers and the Broncos and maybe the Roosters and Storm just like constantly having these battles like that you wouldn't have believed you could see before. But Broncos are nowhere near that level at the moment.
Ezra, defensively, like, I know he's never a stud in D, but he's just fallen off a cliff. The one shining light I will give the Broncos, and look, if I went back, I know the edges got torn apart, so I could probably find missed tackles or whatever, but watching the game yesterday, or the other day, sorry, Tony Staggs, I thought, was outstanding for you. There was obviously the solo try, but even defensively, there are a couple of times where like Sherry and Wilson like had him beaten on the edge, and I'm like, they're too speeds. I'm like, he's done. He'd get across. I think he took Wilson out at one point. He chopped Sherry down a couple of times. Again, all in all, probably not great, but I thought he had some massive moments. He jammed Connor Tracy at 16-0 down for an error. Reece Walsh scored off the next set. Those are some big moments from him.
I still think that edge reads are just not good reads. Like, we got absolutely dusted. Anyway, so hopefully they can turn around.
Big game this weekend. Broncos Titans. Titans at home, they're at about $3, the Titans.
Mate, they should
Throw everything at you.
They should be way like what I don't understand with the Broncos. As I said, even when we've had our best players, we haven't put that together that good a footy. So very, 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 very poor performance. There's no other way to There's no other way to really describe it.